Councillor Hardiman, could I ask you to turn your camera off, please? Thank you. It's 6 o'clock, Chairman.
Thanks very much, Louisa. Good evening, all. Welcome to this evening's full cabinet on Tuesday, 23rd of March. Welcome. I see we're all present, so there won't be any apologies. So thank you for that. The item 2 on the agenda is the declaration of interest by members in accordance with the Code of Conduct to invite members to declare the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interest or any other disclosable interest in the following agenda items and indicate the action that they will be taking when that item is considered. And please see the members' Code of Conduct as set out in section 14 of the Council's Constitution for full information. So there you go. Are there any disclosed interest? Please raise your hand. I'm using the physical hand. We will use the automatic hands for anybody wishing to speak from outside, but under the items on the agenda, I'll ask go to cabinet members first, and then if there are any other members of the council watching who want to make a contribution, please raise your virtual hand and I'll be able to pick that up on my clever screen. So the next item then is item 3, which is the minutes, confirming as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of February last. Would somebody care to move, please? Moved by Councillor Thomas and seconded by Councillor Martin. Are they agreed? Yep, that's unanimous, I think. Yep. Call-ins. Can we have any notification, Louisa? Have there been any call-ins, please? I assume not, but
There have been no call-ins, Chairman.
thanks very much indeed. Item 5, there are no items requiring urgent attention. So we'll move on to public participation. Have there been any requests for public participation, Louisa, please?
There's been no requests, Chairman.
Fine, thanks very much. So we've really essentially got a couple of items tonight. It's not our usual lengthy cabinet meeting, so they're not many items, but equally they're important items. The first item under 7.1 is the budget monitoring for the third quarter 2020 into 2021, and it's a report from the corporate director, Tracy Southall, the council's performance in quarters 1 to 3 ending on the 31st of December, and to present the current projected outturn position for 2021 financial year for both revenue and capital expenditure. And I will also ask our newly appointed member of cabinet with a finance portfolio brief, Mary Rayner, to perhaps introduce this, if you would, please. And for those following it online, it's page 14 on the agenda. Thank you, Mary. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Leader, and good evening, Cabinet, and good evening to everyone who's watching and fellow councillors. This agenda item you'll find on pages 14 to 29 of the printed agenda, and there's also supplementary appendices that were circulated separately and electronically. I would like to move the recommendations as set out in paragraph 2 of this report, setting out the projected budget variations and comments outlined. The purpose of this report is to brief members of the Council's financial performance for the quarter 1 ending the 31st of December 2020, and to present the current projected outturn position for 2020-2021 financial year. It also provides forecasts on the capital programme for 2020 to 21. It builds on previously the May, July, September Cabinet reports on the budgetary control, including the financial stress testing re-coronavirus pandemic impact. Now, the coronavirus has actually had quite a considerable impact on various parts of the council, and I will go through this in my summary report. The reports are revised estimates of what happened, what we approved on council on the 1st of March. The revenue, this is good news, is 175,000 underspent against the revised budget, which makes a modest contribution towards the closing funding gap. Capital, excluding the Capital Portfolio Fund and Development Loans Fund, the forecast spend is £6.91 million against the programme of £7.3 million. Important caveat, overturn projections will undoubtedly change at the final accounts, always is the case for this year, and in particular with the ongoing impact of COVID. And it's very, very difficult to actually predict. The report also briefs members on the current progress against the savings and efficiency targets being delivered by the Wyre Forest Forward programme and the Localism Partnership agenda. Key points on the report are income. We currently have projected the outturn position will be £2.169 million, lower than the original projected amount found in paragraph 4.5.3. The key, the external income has been important. Has been an important element within finances of the council for some time. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a sufficient impact refer to you in the graph in paragraph 4.5157. This loss to some extent will be migrated by 75% fees and the charge income guarantee scheme. But the co-funding scheme does not cover all the income streams nor all the income lost. We expect there will be a shortfall in the region of £1.06 million. But these figures are in line with the revised budget projections, so no further widening of the gap is expected. The Property Portfolio Fund has been expected to contribute £330,000 to the Council's finances after interest and debit repayments is taken into account. We currently project that the fund will do no more than break even at this year. In part, this is due to the significant increase in bad debt provision. 20% of the income due has not been collected, and we anticipate a proportion of this overdue debt may be difficult to collect. We hope to take a fresh look at the closed down base at the latest available information, and this is found in paragraph 5.2. Leisure Centre, paragraphs 5.5.4 and 5.5.5. Due to the third unexpected lockdown, there is a potential of an overspend on the cash flow support supplier relief being provided to the operators by the council estimates to be finalised. It is too early to report any certainty, but this could be in the region of £100,000. However, this can be offset in part by the now £213,000 external funding support secured by Sports England National Leisure Recovery information regarding the top up of the further £13,000, which was notified later last week. That's good news. Later, indications suggest that it's up by £30,000, 30%, and it can be applied. The relief support we have been paying to the contractor is in line with other local authorities. Summary review forecast variance is provided by the Directorate in paragraph 4.3.1. The variances include income losses, additional expenditures, budget pressures, as well as reduced expenditures requirements and growth in income, and also presented in more detail in Appendix 2. Progress against the WFF savings target presented in paragraph 6.5. The table now includes the Cabinet proposal agreed at March Council. An analysis of the savings achieved to date is presented in Appendix 4. And finally, progress against the Localism Partnership savings target is presented in the table in paragraph 6.6. In conclusion, the current forecast for the outturn position for 2020-21 is a welcome saving of £175,000 compared to the revised budget. The final position will undoubtedly be different as there are many variables, including decisions made on provisions and reserves at the year end. I would like to now ask for a seconder to the recommendations that I have moved. Has anyone any questions?
I've got Councillor Dyke seconding that. What the Councillor Rayner has just moved is the 2.1 on the agenda paper, page 15. The Cabinet is asked to decide that the projected budget variations and comments outlined with this report and the appendices 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 be noted. So that's moved by Councillor Rayner, seconded by Councillor Dyke. Any questions from any cabinet member, first of all? It's good news to see it's better than expected. You know, it's been a nightmare of a year for our finance staff in coping with it all, with so many changes going along and updating government advice and everything else. And the number of grants that have been paid out are absolutely phenomenal. And they've worked their socks off all through the year. It's been a nightmare of a year all round. And
can I just echo that, Chair, that the fact that the finance people and that have done an extremely good job in all areas, and they've worked really, really hard to achieve what they've done. And I'd like to thank them for it. Thank you.
I agree with that. I think we'd all echo that, Councillor Rayner. So there's no further comments from anyone on Cabinet. Any members watching online? I can't see any hands.
Peter Young. Peter Young's got his...
Has he?
Peter Young has raised his virtual hand.
Oh, yeah, he's up in that corner. Sorry, and Nathan Desmond now I see as well. Peter Young, first of all. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, all looks pretty encouraging. I just wish to ask about the bad debt provision going up by 20%. And I wondered what was contributing to that. Was it, is it expected to be shortages in collecting of council tax, or are there other items that actually also have a big part to play in the fact that the bad debt provision has gone up by 20%?
Before I ask Councillor Rayner to come in, I know Tracy Southall would comment on that, and I just worry a little bit for Councillor Desmond, because it looks as if Councillor Young has just stolen his thunder, because that's always a favourite of Councillor Desmond, and I was predicting that he would ask that question. But Councillor Young has got in first. Shall we ask Tracy Southall to comment on that technical point? Or are you happy to answer it, Mary?
Either way, I'll let on this occasion Tracy do it.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Rayner. I know that you're very, very able to discuss this because this is one of your areas of interest. Yes, the bad debt provision, the 20% increase that you refer to, Councillor Young, is actually on the capital portfolio properties. Clearly, with the lockdown and with some of the businesses within the portfolio being within the sector that has been hardest hit, food, beverage, etc. You know, there have been some difficulties paying. The approach that we're taking is that those payments aren't lost, that we will continue to work with the individual businesses to recover them, so they're defrayed, if you like, or deferred for now. But it would be imprudent not to make appropriate provision within the accounts, because, you know, it is, as has been said, it's been the most challenging year certainly in my career. So yes, so that is down to businesses struggling, not getting the income, and us working together to defray the income, but expecting there to be some fallout, and so to make a prudent provision. Thank you.
Just to put it in perspective, Councillor Young, when Tracy Southall says in her career, I'm not going to embarrass her, but I'm going to say this is the worst time in your experience in finance in this authority, in your whole career, and your whole career has been how many years?
Oh, I can't reveal that, but it's been a very long time. I'm quite old.
No, you're not quite old at all. You know.
You certainly don't look it.
But it's a lot of years, isn't it? You know, we're hearing all these figures from central government at the moment. It's the worst in history. It's the worst this. But when you have a very experienced chief officer like Tracy Southall, who's been here for many, many years in the authority, and this is the worst ever, that's it from the cold face, rather than what the politicians are saying and what we read in the daily newspapers. So thank you for that. Mary, do you want to add anything else? Oh, it's Nathan next. Sorry, Nathan. Councillor Desmond, thank you.
Thank you, Leader, and good evening, everyone. I certainly echo what Councillor Rayner has said, and echo everything she said, certainly about our finance team and the excellent work that Tracy and her team have done. It has certainly been an incredibly challenging 12 months. All of us know that. But once again, Tracy and her team have come out, or projected to come out, on the right side. And I don't know how they keep doing it. But year after year after year, you know, we see initially the first quarter and the second quarter, well, certainly this time round, we're pointing in the wrong direction. I haven't got the previous reports to hand. I have tried to find them, but my memory tells me that certainly second quarter, it was looking like an overspend of over £200,000, if my memory serves me right. I'm sure Mary will tell me in a minute what those figures was in second quarter. And again, Mary's absolutely right that the final outturn position will be somewhat different to this. But what I always say at third quarter is it's a clear indication and a clear signpost of the trajectory of year end, and £175,000 underspend savings, call it what you will, Leader, is absolutely fantastic right position to find ourselves in, especially in the context of the last 12 months. So I do echo what Councillor Rayner has said about Tracy and the team and wider management across Wyre Forest, because obviously it's not just the finance team, you know, it's WF20 and all those managers, you know, that are driving out the inefficiencies, making the efficiency savings. So it is pointing in the right direction, but rest assured, this won't be the financial output position we find ourselves in. I do have some questions for Mary, please. And obviously, if we focus on Appendix 2, which is always the most important part of this report, you know, the bones of this report, I am interested in items 1 and 2, the improved income position, which is quite significant, because those who have studied Appendix 2 over the years will realise and appreciate that 2 items that have constantly had reduced income against them have been the land charges, which have gone down dramatically over the last 3 to 4 years. And obviously homelessness as well has cost us a tremendous amount of money over the last couple of years. This time we are seeing additional income of £88,000 and £78,000, which is circa £150,000 additional income. Could the Cabinet member just give a brief explanation on how we have turned the circle on that, please, and have such a fantastic output on that? And why we're at it as well is, again, you know, there's a very good output position of some £37,000 under car parks, reduce operational expenses, and underneath that, the civil and enforcement, there's further savings from that. How we managed to make such, again, significant saving in those 2 areas, please. And then my final question, Leader, is absolutely, yes, three questions. It won't be 4.
The fourth one was about the debt collection, wasn't it?
No. You were wrong on that one, Leader. No. I'll leave that to Peter. No. My third one is a more of a generic question to Mary. Obviously, in the Wyre Forest savings, and I can't find it in front of me what page it was, but From memory, we still have a significant amount of Wyre Forest savings to make, obviously, this financial year going through. Off the top of my head, I think it's over £1 million to make across the board on that. Can the Cabinet member just set out very, very briefly on how she thinks that we can make those savings over the next 12 months, which was going to be, you know, an incredibly difficult journey. If you could just give some narrative to that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Desmond. Now, the first one you're wanting to know is about income position, land charges, street naming and planning. Is that the correct one that you're looking at? Right. Well, I would say private sector housing, HMOs, the homeless list service, and various miscellaneous small variations. I presume that's the area you're looking at. Yes?
Yeah.
I have got it correct.
Can I just interrupt? For those looking online, page 31 of the 60 in the bundle.
Thank you, Chair. Right. Well, I'm surmising here, but I can assure you that one of the big things is that with planning, they got £98,000 in planning alone, for which covers the Lee Castle. I don't know, Councillor Tracy Southall will actually correct me if I'm wrong, but we got quite a large sum of money for the Lee Castle planning, so that covers the whole of that area. Is that okay?
Yeah, Tracy's nodding. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Now you wanted to know about private. What was the next one? Private.
Homelessness.
It was homelessness, please, Councillor Rayner.
Homelessness, yeah.
Homelessness. Well, if I'm correct with that, there was a government grant come through for the homelessness, and that is why that is showing the way it is. Because we had, when COVID came along, we had to provide things, and the government have supported us through that. Someone can correct me. I'm brand new in this job, but it's one of the things I've come up with.
It's a real baptism of fire, doing brilliantly.
It is, it is.
Hang on a sec, Tracy did put a hand up during that point.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. If I could assist, you are quite right. It is an external funding grant that means that we have underspent on homelessness. What it was, and apologies if I didn't include this in our briefing, is that we under the no second night policy, we put a number of our homeless residents up in Worcester City property, and the County Council, as part of their support for COVID, used some of their government COVID grant to reimburse both us and Wychavon that used the Worcester property. So, and that didn't happen until quite late on in the budget process, when Michael Hudson he came back to me and said yes, they would fund us. Actually, we've had the money this week, and we've actually had Worcester City's money, and we're passing that on to them, because we thought we did all of the work for the reimbursement. So it was government grant passported by the County Council. So Councillor Rayner is quite right. Thank you.
Okay, right, hang on.
Nathan wants to come back in on that, I think, just a second.
If I can, yeah, well, that's really, really helpful, right, Tracy, and I am grateful. If I can just ask a supplementary through the leader, please, on that to Tracy. Obviously, I think it's fair to say that over the years in homelessness, there has been a structural issue on this that has been costing us significant amount of money year on year on year. Hence, obviously, the council were actively looking for a second homeless facility. Is it right in thinking then that this money that has come in is like a one-off boost and sort of papers over the cracks, for want of a better word? You know, it gives us a short-term boost, but it's not going to structurally and significantly turn the tide in homeless. Is that a fair summary of where we are?
That's fair. So I've come to Tracy now, but we are in fact still looking seriously at sorting out this additional accommodation. going forward, and that there shortly will be an announcement on that. Tracy.
Yes, through you, Chairman. Yes, the reimbursement from the county, the grant from the county, actually merely paid the amount that we have had to pay Worcester City to use their facilities for, for when we had to get, everybody in accommodation. So you're right, it was a short-term gain, but obviously it did mean that we could help more people.
Thanks.
Right.
Back to you, Mary.
Okay, carry on. Now, Nathan, is there anything more on that first section? Let's get the first section clear. You're happy with that first section?
If you could just give, I'm very interested on the enforcement, because obviously there's a positive outturn in enforcement. Have we been ticketing a lot more people?
Well, as I have got an area in my a place in my area, I'm hoping that they're ticketing quite a bit, and I have actually seen them ticketing quite a lot in my area. So I know that whilst there aren't the car parks and people using the car parks, I am aware, for example, in my division in county and district, we have got quite a lot of ticketing going on. And that's, I do know that because I've met the enforcement officers doing it, and I've been with them when they've been doing it. So there is quite a bit of ticketing going on in that area. I don't know if Tracy would like to come in and tell us if there's anything else other than ticketing, but I do know there's quite a bit going on in my own division.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Yes, this is set out in the table for community and environmental services on page 19. Now there is an increased number of tickets issued, but what we have to bear in mind is that this is measured against the revised budget, and in the revised budget, because of COVID and because of the close downs, etc., we did revise down the income estimate, so it's all relative. But yes, Councillor Rayner is quite right, and that table also sets out the reason for the reduction in cost for car parks, which is fewer reactive repairs and savings on security services, and that was because people basically weren't parking very much on our car parks, and they did leave the cost budgets in higher than with hindsight was necessary. Thank you.
Can I just say that they are doing a lot of work on double yellow lines, because I go with them on the double yellow lines when they're, and I've met them on many occasions when they've actually, there are certain areas which I will not mention, but they do actually get regular offenders. Thank you.
The only point that I was going to add to that, Councillor Rayner, is that we have made it very clear, because we have various periods of free parking during the pandemic, and beyond that, we made it very clear that period of free parking was coming to an end, and we put that notice out in the public arena for quite a while before we started reintroducing charges again. So there shouldn't be any reason for people to think, well, it's still free parking, because we're back in business. We're charging in the car parks again. Yeah.
Can I come back to Councillor Desmond? Is there anything else on that page? No, you're happy? Good, thank you.
But just a quick answer to my third question, please, on the generic savings, please.
Yeah. What do you want to know about generic savings?
Tracy's got the answer to that.
I know Tracy. Yeah, Tracy?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I assume that Councillor Desmond's asking about the table on page 27 at 6.5 of the report, which it shows that for 2021 there's £96,000 in achieved savings for this financial year, which hasn't been put in the revised budget, so that will be offset by the final account savings. But then in 21-22, and I think this is what Councillor Desmond was asking, there is a generic White Forest forward savings target of 1.272 million, which I assume that that Councillor Rayner would say that would be met by the transformation programme that was included in the budget report that went to December Council at 6.21. There was a table, it was an indicative table, but a table of work that officers would progress with, obviously, with Cabinet and bring reports to council to transform the council, so service reviews, etc. Thank you.
Okay. Right, well, if there's no more questions from anyone, have I missed anybody, Louisa, or is that it?
That's it at the moment, Chairman.
Thanks very much. So it's been moved under 2.1 and moved and seconded. Those in favour of the report as written, please show. Excellent, so that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Rayner. You've passed the initiation test, so much appreciated.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Cabinet. Thank you, everyone.
The next item on the agenda is 8.1. This has been controversial. It's the review of public space protection orders, PSPOs, and it related specifically to the number of dogs that can be walked within the district. And I'm going to ask Councillor Helen Dyke, who's worked tirelessly on this item over many months. And we've got to this position now where we have a firm recommendation from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee when it met on the 4th of March. So over to you to introduce Councillor Mrs. Dyke. Thank you.
Thank you very much and good evening. The purpose of this report this evening is to ask Cabinet whether we should make any changes to the 3 public space protection orders, normally referred to as PSPOs, and if everyone will excuse me, I'll refer to them as PSPOs throughout this report, that were implemented in October 2020 in the Wyre Forest area. 2 of the PSPOs related to alcohol restriction in Stourport and Bewdley, and the 3rd one was for a district-wide dog control PSPO. At the meeting on the 7th of July last year, Cabinet agreed with the recommendations of Overview and Scrutiny on this issue, which included that there would be a 6-month review of the 3 implemented PSPOs. With the recommended review in mind, a consultation regarding all 3 PSPOs was launched on the 6th of January and ran for 4 weeks, ending on the 3rd of February. The consultation gave residents the opportunity to have their say on rules to tackle dog fouling and the new measure which limited people to walking a maximum of 3 dogs at any one time. 2 separate surveys ran along at the same time, inviting people to comment on the street drinking restrictions in Bewdley and Stourport town centres. The results of the online consultations went as a report to the meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee on March the 4th as part of the promised 6-month review. A total of 287 responses were received with relation to the alcohol restriction PSPOs for Stourport and Bewdley, and the responses showed a clear majority in support of it continuing. In fact, as part of their responses, residents used the opportunity to report alcohol-fueled incidents they had personally experienced. Over 900 responses were received for the online dog control consultation, of which 212 were out of area. There was a clear majority either agreeing or agreeing strongly with all aspects of the dog control order, except the number of dogs a person can have under his or her control. The majority was in favour of increasing the number of dogs from 3 to 6. This was debated and discussed at Overview and Scrutiny at great length, and this brings us to the recommendation in 2.1 and 2.2 before us this evening. Before I ask for the support of Cabinet for these recommendations, I would just like to take the time to talk on a couple of comments that have been made throughout this whole issue. It has been said that this council has been undemocratic on this issue. I refute this in the strongest terms. The recommendations that came to Cabinet in July had considered the results of an open consultation process. At that time, a 6-month review from the date of implementation of the 3 PSPOs was promised and has taken place. As part of the 6-month review, A further public consultation has taken place and formed part of the report that went to overview and scrutiny in March and here this evening. This council has also encouraged and enabled public speaking on the matter. And lastly, the recommendation before Cabinet this evening reflects the wish and recommendation from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Therefore, I am at a loss to see how that has been an undemocratic process. There has also been much mention of a petition of around 2,500 signatures on this matter. But what has been omitted in that was that this was a global Facebook petition containing signatures from all over the world, including America, South Africa, and India, and by no means just signatures from Wyre Forest, where the PSPOs were implemented. Thank you for that. And moving on to the recommendation, I propose that Cabinet supports, and I will read it out for people that are watching online. 2.1 notes that there is support for the alcohol orders in Bewdley and Stourport on 7 as set out in the consultation responses in appendices 2 and 3, and that no changes are required on those particular PSPOs. And 2.2 asks us to amend the dog control PSPO to substitute 6 for 3 in the limit of dogs that one person may have under his or her control, in line with the consultation responses and comments of the Kennel Club and other relevant dog walking organisations, as evidenced in appendices 1 and 4. And I think this is democracy in action. Thank you very much.
I like those last few words at the end. They weren't quite on the paper, but I know where you're coming from. Somebody's going to second that, I hope. Councillor Martin, do you wish to speak? On you go.
Sorry,
Right.
I couldn't find my mute button. Thank you, Leader. I would very much like to speak on this one. I'd like to first of all thank all the supportive emails that I've got with regards to this, because they unfortunately could see this being played out on social media. They are dog walkers themselves, and whilst the Kennel Club is in favour of 6 dogs, the RSPCA, the Dog Trust and the Pet Industry Federation does not. I think this clearly shows we are democratic. Worcestershire County Council have just ruled on 4 dogs. Therefore, I hope we don't become a Richmond like in London, where we see an influx of dog walkers with 6 or more dogs. Because 1 or 2 dog walkers who walk 1 or 2 dogs, and in actual fact, Wyre Forest have got an excellent population of people that just like to go out for a walk with or without a dog. So I do support my Cabinet colleague, and thank you for listening.
Thanks very much, Councillor Martin. Does any other member of Cabinet wish to add any comment there? Show with your hand. No. Does any other member of the council who is with us this evening, and there are about a dozen or so of you, or more than that, 2, 4, 6, 7. Does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Hart, you've got your hand up. Welcome.
Thank you very much indeed. Good evening, Chairman. As Councillor Helen Dyke has alluded to, this went before the Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting on the 4th of March, and we too are very democratic, and I think all 11 members of the committee spoke on this item, and in particular in respect of dogs. It was very topical, not only when it was considered back in July of last year, and Cabinet made their initial decision on the 7th of July last year, but also very topical at our March meeting. Let me just say, and I'll come on to the issue of dogs in a moment, because in all of this, it's really important that we do remember what the legal mechanism of a PSPO does for us. And of course, we had to have this review because it's time limited, and had we not have reviewed our PSPO back in the summer of last year, when it was initially implemented back in 2017 when I was leader, then we couldn't issue a fixed penalty notice to anybody, whether it was 1 dog, 10 dogs, or what have you. And indeed, not just about dogs, but also the important matters of alcohol, which we used to call and were alcohol restriction zones. But the PSPOs that were introduced in Bewdley and in Stourport, it's been a strange 12 months or so, hasn't it, with COVID-19? But in normal times, the PSPOs in respect of alcohol in Bewdley and Stourport would actually really be coming into play, particularly in the summer months with people drinking in the town and drinking in the parks. So we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that it is a much wider tool than simply dealing with how many dogs you walk. And importantly, whether it's 1 dog, 4 dogs, 6 dogs, or 10 dogs, it is the mechanism to be able to issue a notice on an irresponsible dog owner, because you can't blame the dog, an irresponsible dog owner who allows their dog to foul in our parks and our nature reserves and what have you. And in particular, the important powers around requesting that leads are put on dogs in certain areas, and that officers have the power to request that. So with all of that context, let me get to what seemed to dominate the debate at scrutiny, which was the number of dogs. And if I've said the point once, I've probably said it 10 times, but I'll say it again just for the record. It's something that we shied away from when I was leader back in 2017, putting a limit on the number of dogs, and for this very reason. But Cabinet took the decision in last summer, and indeed scrutiny considered that they would agree with a limit of 3, but of course with the caveat of a review. And to be fair to the Cabinet, you have reviewed the matter, and it wasn't unanimous, but out of the 11 members, it was pretty persuasive. 10, with all of the disagreement and differing views that people have got, 10 out of the 11 did agree that it was sensible to increase the limit from 3 to 6, in line with the Kennel Club's national position. And I take the view that was the right recommendation to make, and there was just 1 abstention. And I know this divides people's opinions, and it divides dog walkers' views as well, because the biggest beef really is having an irresponsible dog walker, and that you could have one dog and be irresponsible, that spoil it for the 99% of law-abiding citizens. So this way, I hope it satisfies all of the issues with those that walk multiple dogs, those that earn their living from it, and I think this is a sensible executive decision that the Cabinet are taking in respect of this important change, and as I say, fully supportive from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Thanks, Leader.
Thanks very much, Councillor Hart. Councillor Susie Griffiths, I've got next.
Thank you, Chair. And I don't know if Councillor Rogers was first.
Camera on.
Oh.
Chairman, Councillor Rogers was first.
Councillor Rogers first.
Was he? Sorry, Chris, I didn't see your hand up there. Councillor Rogers, could you turn your camera on, Chris? Good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Cabinet, and all those other people that have joined the meeting this evening. I'm very pleased that the limit on dog walkers has now been raised to 6. Whilst I'm sure everybody knows, I'm totally against any limit, and I certainly think the emphasis should be put on being in proper control of dogs. However, the Kennel Club is the national recognised body, and if that is their view, I think it's very sensible for us to follow a nationally recognised organisation, and that should certainly keep all those owners happy that are obviously in keeping with their national organisation. This should now give our officers a much better opportunity to put the emphasis on a lack of control, and I hope that that message will go out to them, and also, I hope this will make their job a little bit simpler. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rogers. Sorry to take you out of order. Susie Griffiths, there we go, camera as well.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, yeah, it was just a comment really. I was on both overview and scrutiny sort of for the initial one, and when we re-looked at it, I want to echo everything that Helen and Nikki have said. You know, we are a listening council and we are very democratic. I understand how passionate Lisa and Linda have been and applaud them for the campaign that they have run to get the outcome that they have had, and hopefully, I know they wanted even more than 6 dogs, but they ended up with 6 dogs, and we, you know, as a council we've listened. What I found sad is at times it has got very, very personal, and I'm sorry for Helen on that, because Helen has worked so hard to listen to everybody to do that, and there was no need. I've read a lot of social media, and as everyone probably knows, it's a bone of contention for myself. As much as I like social media and as much as I use it, it doesn't need to get personal, it doesn't need to get nasty, and I feel very sorry, and I think Helen's been quite amazing how she's coped with all of that. So I'm just hoping now, you know, it's been listened to, and regardless of you know, where the petition came from and everything, which, you know, I know some people could think may have been questionable, that it is what it is. And I just hope that we can all now draw a line under it and they can move on. And, you know, our dog walkers and everything. I mean, as said in overview and scrutiny last time, and very valid points, to be honest, I walk my daughter's dog a lot. I'm out walking a lot a week with work. And to be fair to Lisa and Linda, very rare if I see multiple dogs cause a problem. It's normally ones on their own, and I get that, but I do feel they have been listened to, and I hope now that we can all just move on. And yeah, that's it. Thank you, Helen.
Yeah, I've got no further speakers from the chair. My only reservation would be, and I think Helen did touch on it at the start, is that now we're going to be an area quite unique, having 6 when lots of areas around us are 3 or 4 or less. And I hope it doesn't mean that there will be, as we realize in Richmond, for example, where they've found that people are coming in from far and wide to walk their dogs, because at the end of the day, it'll then be down to our enforcement officers who are already stretched to try and sort out this issue of dog fouling, because that's our main concern. Yes, we will be concerned if there are people out regularly with 5 or 6 dogs coming towards a group perhaps that's got young children in it and whatever. They will be anxious, even though, you know, I appreciate a lot of people have those 6 dogs under control. Others will just feel threatened by a number of dogs milling around, and that is a worry. And again, I would want to thank Councillor Helen Dyke, whose resolute nature in getting this across the line has been much appreciated. And the abuse that Councillor Griffiths referred to is inexcusable. The keyboard warriors that get involved, some of them must have very boring lives, and all they can do is sit there in an evening and attack the council unjustifiably. I mean, the stick we've received over our budget meeting the other night was quite disgraceful and there are people on this call who participated and joined in that. I think it's about time people got a life, got on with living, and enjoy what we do have around us. We have a beautiful district to be proud of, and there's no need for the consistently negative statements that I know it's coming up to an election, but you know, it's inexcusable, quite frankly. So cabinet members, colleagues, I rambled a bit there. Gone a little bit off course, but I think it's important to say that. Those in favour of the recommendation as read out, please show. Right, that's agreed unanimously. Thanks very much. So that's that item dealt with. We'll now move on to the next item, which is the green item that Councillor Nikki Martin will be speaking to. It's item 9.1 on our papers. It's the Green Homes Grant, the Local Authority Delivery Scheme, Phase 2. Nikki, do you want to introduce it and make it sound more exciting than it looks?
I was just about to say, this is a very straightforward and also a positive one. quite a simple one. It is just to adjust the capital programme to allow us to deliver a second tranche of the green energy. It was a little bit of an administration error that it should have been brought to us at previous council. And this is where we invite people to apply for the grant to increase their home to more of a greener way of operating it. And the second tranche also is available to social housing as well. We know we've got an old, or community housing, I've got an older housing stock, so they are also available to apply for this. So pretty straightforward. I recommend that we amend the capital programme to include the expenditure of 525,000 to provide Green Home Grant Phase 2, which is fully matched by the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy funding.
Thanks very much. That's seconded. Councillor Thomas. Yep, I saw that, and Councillor Dyke. So thank you for that. It's moved and seconded. Can I just add, and Councillor Hart will like this and his colleagues, I just wonder when this money is going to run out. The amount of money that's coming from central government. All right, it's not covering all that expenditure, and we heard that earlier when Mary did the did her item. That you know, we still there's money that we're waiting for, and you know that's in large figures. But these are mouth-watering figures that are coming through at the moment, and you know the government is certainly coming to the table. I just worry at a personal level whether our grandchildren and great-grandchildren in the future are going to be able to afford to live with the council rates, taxes, whatever that are going to be needed to pay for all this cash, because at some point we're going to have to pay for it. But this green energy one is more than welcome, and we hope, because we are looking to becoming an increasingly green authority, and we want to move forward on that. I just have this cynicism a little bit about, I can't believe where it's all coming from. And then the High Streets Fund was unbelievable. It's brilliant, and we'll put it to an excellent use. But you know, we've been very fortunate as a district council so far, and that is appreciated. And again, I would thank our MP for the work that he's done in putting in getting these cash amounts through, supporting them for us. So any comments from anybody else? And I don't want Marcus to make a tribute speech now on that one. He's gone, he's not with us, so that's okay. Any comments from anybody else at all? No. So it's been moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Recommendation on the Green Homes Grant. Those in favour, please show. That's unanimous again, Louisa. Thank you very much. We don't need to move the exclusion motion because there are no items in the confidential section. So that ends the meeting at 5 to 7, 18:55. So thank you all for coming along this evening. Thank you for those that are watching at home, and thank you for those many members who are watching online as well. So all the best and good night. Thanks very much.